For centuries, the Bible has been regarded as the ultimate divine truth, a sacred text that has remained unchanged and perfect since its inception. However, what if this widely accepted view doesn't tell the entire story? The Bible, as we know it today, is not a simple, untouched manuscript handed down from the heavens, but a compilation of texts shaped by centuries of human influence, political power struggles, and editorial decisions that have had a profound impact on its content. The evolution of the Bible, a product of debate and political influence. The Bible we have today did not simply fall into humanity's hands as a finished book. Instead, it is the result of long periods of debate, discussion, councils, and negotiations. In the early days of Christianity, there was no unified doctrine. The Christian faith was made up of a variety of communities, each with its own beliefs, sacred writings, and practices. These early Christian texts, which included Gospels, letters, and apocalypses, were as diverse as the communities that produced them. Some texts emphasized the humanity of Jesus, while others focused on his divinity. Some suggested that salvation was available to everyone, while others drew clear boundaries between insiders and outsiders. This diversity presented early Christianity not as a unified faith, but as a collection of scattered and varied beliefs. It wasn't until the 4th century that the Roman Empire, under Emperor Constantine, aligned itself with Christianity. However, this was not purely a spiritual decision. It was a political one. Constantine sought a way to unify his fractured empire, and he saw Christianity as a potential tool to achieve this. In 325 CE, Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea, not to debate the divine inspiration of Scripture, but to define what Christianity would officially be. The Council of Nicaea aimed to create a unified version of Christianity that could serve the emperor's political goals. This included deciding which beliefs were acceptable and which were heretical. Texts that aligned with the emerging Christian orthodoxy were included in the Bible, while those that didn't, such as the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Mary, were excluded. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, emphasized self-discovery and personal enlightenment, which conflicted with the developing doctrines of the Church. The Gospel of Mary, which elevated the role of women in early Christianity, challenged the male-dominated structure of the Church. The Council of Nicaea did not just settle theological disputes. It was a political move to consolidate the power of the emperor and the emerging Christian hierarchy. Texts that threatened the emerging orthodoxy were not just ignored but actively suppressed. This process of defining the correct beliefs and excluding others continued throughout history. The Bible was edited, translated, and reinterpreted to reflect the prevailing political and theological climate of the time. The Bible's translation, shaping beliefs and doctrines. One of the clearest examples of how human decisions have shaped the Bible is the process of translation. Translation can significantly alter the meaning of the Bible and influence its interpretation. For instance, in Isaiah 7 verse 14, the Hebrew word Alma is used to describe a young woman who will conceive a child. The word Alma does not necessarily imply virginity. It simply means young woman. However, when this passage was translated into Greek in the Septuagint, Alma was rendered as Parthenos, which means virgin. This change paved the way for the interpretation of this passage as a prophecy of the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, a central doctrine of Christianity. The King James Bible, commissioned by King James I of England in the early 17th century, is another example of how translation decisions can shape religious beliefs. The King James Bible was not only intended to be a masterpiece of English literature, but also a tool to consolidate the power of the monarchy and the Anglican Church. Some phrases in the King James Bible, such as "God save the King," were included to reinforce the divine right of kings. These translation choices were not neutral. They reflected the political and religious priorities of the time. The influence of the Dead Sea Scrolls and other lost texts. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947 revealed significant differences between the Bible we read today and earlier versions of the texts. These manuscripts, which predate much of the Old Testament, showed that some passages had been altered or omitted over time. For example, the book of Isaiah found among the Dead Sea Scrolls contains significant differences from the version in the Standard Bible. Some phrases were omitted, while others were added, reflecting the theological priorities of the scribes who created these manuscripts. The Dead Sea Scrolls also revealed the existence of other texts that were once influential but later excluded from the mainstream biblical narrative. One such text is the Book of Enoch, which was highly regarded in early Christianity and even quoted in the New Testament. Yet it was eventually excluded from the biblical canon because its descriptions of angels, cosmic battles, and divine mysteries did not fit with the emerging orthodoxy. Another important discovery was the Nag Hammadi Library in 1945, which unearthed a trove of Gnostic texts. These writings offered radically different views on Jesus, salvation, and the nature of the divine. The Gospel of Thomas, for example, presents Jesus as a teacher of secret wisdom, focusing on self-discovery and personal enlightenment rather than adherence to doctrinal beliefs. These Gnostic texts were excluded from the Bible because they posed a threat to the hierarchical structures of the early church. They emphasized personal spiritual experience over institutional authority, challenging the centralized control the church was attempting to establish. The suppression of alternative beliefs. The suppression of alternative beliefs and texts was not a one-time event. Over the centuries, texts that did not align with the theological priorities of the church were actively suppressed. Some of these texts were destroyed, hidden away, or lost to history. The Gospel of Judas, for example, portrays Judas Iscariot not as a betrayer but as the disciple who was fulfilling a divine plan. The Gospel of Mary elevates Mary Magdalene to a position of spiritual authority, which directly contradicted the male-dominated leadership of the church. These texts, and others like them, were deemed too radical and dangerous for the emerging orthodoxy. The existence of these lost gospels and writings raises important questions about the Bible we have today. What else has been lost, and who decided what would be preserved? The Bible was not written by a single author or dictated at one moment in time. Instead, it is the product of centuries of human decisions, debates, and power struggles. Various communities contributed their own sacred texts and theological perspectives, which shaped the Bible over time. The Bible as a tool of control and manipulation. Throughout history, the Bible has been used as a tool of control. For instance, the passage in Romans 13 that instructs Christians to submit to governing authorities, "Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers," Romans 13 verses 1-2, was often wielded to justify obedience to rulers and to maintain political control. The Bible was presented as the ultimate authority, a divine mandate that could not be questioned. Yet beneath this facade of divine authority lay centuries of human decisions that shaped its content. The Bible has also been used to justify conquests, colonization, and the suppression of indigenous cultures. During the transatlantic slave trade, for example, some slaveholders used the Bible to defend the institution of slavery, while others omitted or manipulated certain passages to control the beliefs of enslaved people. The so-called Slave Bible removed sections that dealt with freedom and equality to prevent rebellion and maintain control. Even today, different translations of the Bible reflect ideological and theological biases, with certain versions aligning more closely with conservative or progressive theological views. A shaped and evolving text. The Bible, as we know it today, is far more complex than many realize. It is not a static, unchanging text handed down from divine sources, but a product of centuries of human influence, political power plays, and theological debates. From the early councils and translations to the exclusion of certain texts and the manipulation of others, the Bible has undergone numerous changes that have shaped its meaning and interpretation. The choices made by those who shaped the Bible have left a lasting impact on every page, and the Bible we hold today is the result of a long, complicated process influenced by human decisions and political agendas. Understanding this history challenges the simplified narrative of the Bible as the one and only true version.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.